Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about events. We've got three people today who are going to talk us through how to have virtual events and some in-person events during this time. We've got Jon Schlitt, who is the general manager of it's Mustang Media Group now. I still want to call it the Mustang Daily, but out in beautiful San Luis Obispo. And then from Western Kentucky University, we've got the Director of Student Publications, Chuck Clark, and then the advisor of their brand content studio, Cherry Creative, we've got Sam Oldenburg. So we're gonna go ahead and start by having Jon share his screen. And we're gonna start by talking about housing fairs first, and then we're gonna move into some political debates and things we've done, and then end with talking about some graduation grad galleries. So we've got a lot of different things, and please everybody feel comfortable to post in the chat or just interrupt if you have a question. This is not formal. It's a small group of us. There's only 16, so just jump in if you've got any questions. And with that, I will turn it over to Jon Schlitt.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. Let me see if I can actually do this correctly. Come on. All right, we may just have to go this way. I was telling Catherine at the beginning, I have the oldest laptop in the entire journalism department, and it's kind of a game of roulette on will it work properly with me or not. Let's see here. Try one more thing. Come on, Jon. All right, give myself a little positive reinforcement. Okay, so I'm gonna give a real quick overview of what we have done here at Mustang Media Group this last year from an events standpoint, just kind of focusing on two major things that we've done. I'm gonna start on the political side, then go into housing, and then just hand it right on over to our great colleagues over there at Western Kentucky and let them take the baton. So the first thing that I would say is, Cal Poly Mustang Media Group is located in San Luis Obispo. And a little bit of background is everybody's kind of going through some challenging times, and California has had arguably the strictest lockdowns in the entire nation. We've been in some form of either shelter in place or stay at home since March 2020. Currently, only 10% of Cal Poly's classes are in person. The only constants that are on campus are freshmen. And for the most part, they're told to stay in their dorms. It's a very, very weird situation going on right now. And in-person events are just simply not allowed right now in California. And those were the center of our special sections plans previously. So that has become a big challenge as well. Basically, if you want to have an event if you want to have a gathering of over 10 people, you are violating all kinds of healthcare orders in the state of California. I'm not being a COVID denier. I'm just saying these are kind of the facts right now. So with all this, when we started planning this summer, I was worried about Mustang Media Group's cash flow, but also the morale of the staff as a whole. Because one of the things, last year was my first year, and one of the things that I really enjoyed was, their ability to kind of do some really cool stuff, overcome obstacles, have a good vibe and energy in the office, and I didn't want that to go away. So what we did for this year is a concept that I brought along from one of my previous stops at the University of Kansas, which is Thunderbolt Days. And the concept of Thunderbolt Days is you basically turn the entire day that you are going to put a product out into an event if you can. So one of the things, as I talked about with all the challenges that we've had with people on campus, special sections were a majority revenue driver. We just were not going to bring in the web traffic that was necessary to get us the digital revenue we needed. And our state was going through $54 billion. Yes, $54 billion in budget cuts. So my college was not having money to back us up. So we had to come up with a plan. So one of the things that we did was we spent all summer building up distribution channels for off campus and reach out to a lot of local apartment complexes and asked if they would be okay with us putting a copy of Mustang News and its special sections on their door once a month. In addition to that, we also set up some distribution channels in the immediate area around campus, basically just like a 5-block radius around there, and set it up so that we could go old school and throw copies of our products and our special sections into the driveways as well. We also set up some distribution channels with university housing for the freshmen that were on campus, because, if they were going to be there, we wanted to find the most effective ways to get in front of them. So that's just kind of, I'm going to breeze through this really quick, but that's kind of an overview of what we did. I'll be speaking at a CMBAM in about a month, and I'll go into more in depth on all this. So that's kind of my plug to register and hear some more about it here in a little while. But on top of all this, when we were doing these special sections, is we also are doing promotions to get the attention of our audience, and in some cases partnering with some local businesses to find some good offers that we can promote. So for our very first print product that we did this year for Back to Slow, there's a popular restaurant around here called Sylvester's, and they agreed to have a coupon literally for a free hamburger, free tacos, free ramen, and we promoted the heck out of that. We did that through geofence social media campaigns targeted towards the freshmen on campus and that same audience that was in the immediate area there that I talked around campus as well. So we just said, okay, this is our audience. Let's not just take it for granted that the products are in front of them. Let's grab their attention about these things as well. So that's kind of an overview of the things that we did to kind of build the channels to help make revenues possible. The first big event that we did this year was a virtual mayoral debate. And San Luis Obispo goes on 2-year cycles for mayoral debates. And what had been done in the past was the mayoral candidates would actually come on campus, go into the quad, do a debate, students would watch it, and ask questions, and everybody would participate. That obviously wasn't going to happen this year. Those events are not allowed, and the students just were not going to be on campus. So what we did was we reached out, the editorial staff, I should say, reached out to the mayoral candidates and saw if they would be interested in doing this debate virtually this year. And they were very eager to do it. Now, there are 3 candidates that you see on here. It was really a 2-candidate race between Therese Sweeney and Heidi Harmon, who was the mayor, and they're about as opposite as you get. Therese is very right-wing, Heidi Harmon is very not right-wing. And San Luis Obispo is kind of just down the middle in terms of its political affiliation. So this was a much talked about mayoral debate that we were going to be having. We had a 3rd candidate who was not as high up in the polls, but we invited her anyway. We actually had a 4th candidate who was not able to make it because he didn't own a computer. So that made it difficult on several fronts. But so we had the debate, and we had to find a way to get the attention on the debate. So what you will see here first is our marketing manager, Justin, literally putting up signs around campus in the most heavily trafficked areas. He went old school and put signs in some of the most heavily trafficked areas in downtown San Luis Obispo as well. And again, back this up, I'm a big fan, as you'll find, of paid social media campaigns. So did some paid social media campaigns oriented towards key demographics in the city of San Luis Obispo. I will also say we should have started these campaigns probably at least a day or 2 earlier. For those of you who've never done these campaigns before, they usually require a minimum 12-hour waiting period from Facebook to look through your ads and approve them and get them running and really get any momentum going. So if you are interested in promoting your events this way, that is something to keep in mind. So the virtual debate live streamed simultaneously on both mustangnews.net and on our Facebook page the day of. And over 2,200 page views the day of, which for us, we were pretty happy about. San Luis Obispo is a town of about 40,000 people. So we were pretty happy with that at the end of the day. And I will shoot out a link to this debate if anybody would like to take a look at it towards the end. As with any Zoom debate, it was a little bit clunky here and there, but the students, for the most part, did a really good job on it. My joke with them was they actually did a better job on this first debate, keeping the candidates in line, than Chris Wallace did with both Trump and Biden in the first debate. So it went pretty smoothly. And it was so well done that actually the San Luis Obispo Tribune, that is the other local news organization in town, actually picked up from that event and used it for their own news coverage of the mayoral race going forward, and pulled a lot of the best sound clips out of there. So that was how we made that happen. Now, the question is, how did we make it happen from a revenue standpoint? Well, it was a great tie-in to all of our October election revenues. So this debate happened on a Tuesday, and Tuesday is, because of our setup with our printer, is when our special sections come out. So the same day that we had this mayoral debate happen, we also put out our voter guide. So as I said, our students show up at 7:30 in the morning. They have to go through all kinds of safety protocols to agree to do this. They bag thousands of copies of the paper, and then they deliver those off campus. So this was a perfect tie-in. It bought us a lot of legitimacy with the community, and also bought us a lot of legitimacy with the candidates as well. We are not getting, giant flight desk campaigns for political revenue. California was not a swing state for either Trump or Biden, so we were not getting any national revenue in any way, shape, or form either. So we really just focused on the local candidates. We started doing outreach to all the local candidates as early as July, and they blew it out. This issue was a tremendous success for us financially. It also provided a great gateway for us on the digital front as well. And all in all, just kind of created a great event. But the thing that I would also just kind of back up is, as I said, was the thing that really helped with early on was with the morale of the office, kind of helped them feel that like, okay, even though we're doing this via Zoom, we can overcome obstacles. We can still find a way to make these things happen. We can still connect with the public, and we can still find a way to make things happen from a revenue standpoint. Okay, really quick, so I can make sure to hand this over to the great folks at Western Kentucky. Now I'm going to talk about, that was something that we were able to do virtually. Now I'm going to talk about when a decision we made not to do that virtually, if you will. One of the big events that we do, one of the most profitable events every year, is our housing fair. And I'm sure like many of you, you've got your own housing fairs that you've done. Maybe you found a way to do them this year. Maybe you have not. We had one that last year we got in literally 2 weeks before CMBAM in San Francisco, and it was a huge, huge success. The print edition came in at around $20,000 in total revenue. Did great. If you wanted to be on campus, you had to buy an ad in the issue. And we estimated our attendance at about over 800 people, 20 different vendors in there. And we kind of set it up in a way that when students attended, we set up free pizza for them at the end, but they had to go all the way through all the vendors to get their free slice of pizza oriented the layout of the fair. Now, it became very evident that we weren't going to be able to do a housing fair this year. And when we started talking about what did we want to do from a product standpoint, when we got to late November, it became very obvious to us also that California was on the verge of going on a big, big lockdown again. We were right on the precipice of California averaging 60,000 COVID cases a day. So we said, okay, we need to adapt our techniques here very quickly. So we opted for an all digital approach. So what we opted for was we had brought on a new web developer in late October, early November to really help us with a lot of behind the scenes issues that we were having on our website. And we instead opted this year to just go for a housing site. So what we did was a housing site that we call Slow Living, aka housing.mustangnews.net. And we did this at a very affordable entry price. Some might say we did it too low, but we said, look, we want to make this site a success this year through inventory on the site and not trying to just blow out the price as much as we can. So we set it up at a price so low, we did it for $300 for the first 4 months would get you a listing on Slow Living, because we said we want to make this thing a success at the end of the day. So this kind of gives you a look at what the layout of the site is as well. I'm sure many of you have your own housing sites as well, but probably much better than mine is. And but this is just kind of layout of what we did. But what was great about this was that we went out of our way to really promote this. And we said, okay, our audience is scattered all across the state of California. We would estimate at most about 50% of current Cal Poly students are in San Luis Obispo right now. So we need to bring the audience to these housing clients, and we need to, use the housing side as our first stop point on that. So we've done a lot of different things. We again did paid social media campaigns and just made this thing as big of an event as we could. So we targeted this. We started with San Luis Obispo as the city that we did our paid campaigns in first, and then looked for the areas where the alums go to heavily and set up our campaigns out there. So we've been doing paid campaigns in Los Angeles, San Diego, the Bay Area, and Sacramento as well, which are the big ones for us. We're actually going to drop the Bay Area and now throw more money into Los Angeles because that has been performing much better for us when all is said and done. Been doing extensive push outs on our own social media channels. I have a giant banner up on our homepage, and this has been producing pretty good traffic for us. We've been averaging about 1,000 unique users a week, which for me on a startup product, I'm pretty happy with. And our average user is going through about 6 pages when they're visiting the site, which to me says they're checking this thing out and trying to find some options for them. But the thing we did was we didn't just limit it to just selling this. We did some training on and encouraged our sales team to do multi-product bundles. So again, print wasn't going to be an option. We were not going to be allowed to do distribution because of the lockdowns. So we focused on a 100% digital approach and, kind of walked our team through, training on showing their audience how doing multi-products would get them, the advertiser, exposed to multiple audiences simultaneously. And that was just kind of a concerted effort, and it has worked out really well. The results were it's tripled our digital revenue compared to last February. It's led to campaigns with outstanding advanced sales for both March and April. So our housing clients are starting in February. They're continuing into March and April. And again, this has been a tremendous morale booster for the staff all year long. And it's helped reinforce a belief amongst them that they can overcome any and all obstacles this year. I said this, I'll end on this before I hand this over to Western Kentucky, and I breeze through this really quick. And if anybody has questions, hit me up here at the end. I've kind of changed my mode of thinking now. We did well enough in the first part of this year that financially I'm not worried anymore. And now my thinking has gone more towards, okay, what is the morale of our people? What is their mental health right now? What do we got to do to keep them motivated, keep them energized, et cetera, et cetera? And doing things like this has really helped us tremendously, not only doing traditional events virtually, but in sometimes just saying, okay, a traditional event of any kind isn't going to be possible. So let's just kind of just say, these are our circumstances and do it a completely different way. So as always, I talk to way too fast and way too much, but hand this off to Western Kentucky. I would love to hear what they're doing.
Well, thanks. First of all, greetings from Bowling Green, Kentucky, where it's almost 60 degrees today, and really happy about that. For us, housing fair is something we've done a housing guide like most people have for decades probably, but we just started doing a housing fair 2 years ago, and it turned out to be one of our biggest money makers of the year, generating about $20,000 in revenue. I think our housing fair last year might have been a year ago today. It was right.
Yeah, it was exactly a year ago today.
Was it? Okay, good. My name's Chuck Clark, by the way. I'm Director of Student Publications, and my partner here is Sam Oldenburg. He is advisor to Cherry Creative and Talisman Magazine. So we got our housing fair last year, which is an in-person event that draws hundreds of students. It's in the student union. We take over the entire union, basically all the public spaces, and have the vendors in there, and we give away stuff. One of the apartment complexes gave away a Vespa. One of them, we gave away an iPad. But there were all sorts of just tchotchkes to give away, and then prizes and things like that. So it's a big event and very successful for us. The next week was spring break, and we didn't come back after spring break. So we are back in person and have been since August on sort of a limited basis. During the fall semester, there were very few people on campus, it seemed like. It seems like there's more this semester. But what was really obvious to us last fall was we weren't going to be able to do a housing fair like we had done before. So we sort of just started brainstorming it and drew the students in and came up with a virtual housing week that included rebuilding and rebranding our website that we have for apartments. And I'm going to pitch it over to Sam because he has been the person who has actually executed all of this. But sort of the bottom line in everything is evolution has been kicked into high gear for everybody, and particularly student media. So we got to think differently. We can't do things like we've done before. So Sam has been here overnight, the past couple of nights, working on a print guide that will come out on Tuesday, and working on a website. And I think we'll show the website, which just went live moments ago. So Sam Oldenburg, take it away.
Yeah, so we're kind of all still right in the middle of doing our event right now. Our housing fair is usually around this time of year, late February, early March. So housing week is actually next week, March 1st through the 5th for us. And then that's combined with a housing guide that'll come out on Tuesday that we sent off to print at about 2 a.m. last night. So if I lose my train of thought and just kind of fall asleep mid-sentence, that would be why. But we, with that, like Chuck said, kind of revamped our website that we've had for several years, and I've kind of packaged with the housing fair for the last few years, but it really wasn't anything too special. Kind of have revamped that a lot. So I'm going to share my screen and show you where we're at with that so far. We're still working on it a little bit, but like Chuck said, we went live with that like about an hour ago. So wkapartments.com is our website, incorporates both listings and then stories that we have in our housing guide, so that there's a lot of other content to draw people there and get them on the website, and then continue on the website to see listings and stuff as well. So I've incorporated the map searches, featured properties. We've got 5 different packages that are part of Housing Week that properties can choose from that have more prominent placement and featured properties and some other things that we'll talk about. So we incorporate stories from this year's housing guide and the last few years onto the website. So there's a bunch of content for them to look at and stay on the website a little bit longer. And then big thing for us that was what kind of made it still an event was incorporating giveaways. Like Chuck said, at our housing fair, that's always one of the big draws, are the giveaways that the clients hold. And we've had cruises and concert tickets and all sorts of different things. So we wanted to kind of still have that draw to bring people to the website. So we're sponsoring an iPad giveaway, and then all of the clients had the option to sponsor a giveaway on their page as well. So the way that works, on their individual pages, there's a form where students can sign up and enter that apartment complex's drawing, and then we'll share those emails and contact information with the client, since that's ultimately what they always want. The drawing is to have that continued communication with students. And that kind of gives us another data point to look at a week from now and see if this actually worked. If we can show the clients, yes, this many people filled out your form, and a week from now, kind of give them a report on all of their analytics, or a couple weeks from now after Housing Week is over. And then further down, we share the rest of the listings. So like I said, we're still working on the website a little bit and have more listings coming in. We've got last year at the housing fair, when we were back in normal times, Chuck said we had like about $18,000 in revenue with 14 clients. This year with Housing Week, we've still gotten 10 clients to sign on, and it's been a little under 15,000. So less than a normal year, but a lot closer than we would have expected. And kind of, so talking about that Housing Week event and what that incorporates.
Can I actually jump in really quick, Sam?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, and also for John as well. Who made this website? Like, did you guys just design this yourself, or are you using an online service like, I'm going to really date myself, but like Campus Engine or Sean Kaplan, I forget the name of that company as well, but like there's some places out there that do these things. Did you, either of you, do that, or do you build your own?
Yeah, so for us, our old website was kind of using one of those services incorporated with Town News. They have a directory listing option. Our new website we took off of Town News and designed this on WordPress. So This is me and a couple of our students have worked on the design over the last couple of months, kind of customized this to what we wanted.
For us, mustsaynews.net is built on WordPress, whether I like it or not. WordPress is taught by one of our professors here, so we're going to stay with it. And I kind of touched on this. I think I touched on this in the presentation. One of our web designers, who I hired to basically more or less fix Google Ad Manager problems, ended up building this website for them. His name's Ethan. And I actually, in advance of this, I asked him and I said, Ethan, what did you build it on? And he said, John, the front end of the website is built in React. The back end is built with Node, and we use a Mongo database. So there, I knew I was just going to screw it up. So I thought I would take it straight from Ethan on how we built this thing. So
I don't even know what any of that is, but
I don't really either. And if any of you do know, and you're like, okay, now I got it, great. And I can put you in touch with Ethan. But this is also why I acknowledge my own limitations and just pass it off to brilliant students like Ethan and say, go dream, make it happen.
oh my gosh. Okay. But so anyway, so we can all do this on our own in WordPress. Okay. That's good to know. I was just curious if anybody used any one of those services. we always go back and forth whether we should do this on our own. So this was helpful. Cool. Thanks, guys. Sorry to interrupt, Sam. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think using those services was fine for us for starting. But then, like I said, we wanted to make the website more of a thing this year because it's basically the only thing we had. So that's when we took it off that service so we could customize it more. And part of what we did with customizing it kind of comes into the packages and the different things that we offered. With package A, our largest package, we incorporated, we bought equipment to do 360 tours. So we've got 360 walkthroughs that are included with that package. That we have our photographers go out and take at the apartments. They also include videos that we shoot for those clients. So we've got a video for each of those 4 clients who are on our top tier. And the big, kind of one of the big things that makes it feel like an event are Instagram takeovers that are part of that top package as well. So each of those clients gets an Instagram takeover for the day on our Harold and Talisman Instagram accounts on Instagram stories. And we have each of them kind of paired up with one of our students that sort of be their liaison and help kind of brainstorm creative ideas and interactive kind of things with them, and kind of go back and forth with the client that day if there are questions and stuff that are being asked on Instagram to get answers for that. So a lot of our clients are really excited about that. And a lot like Jonathan said, we kind of bundled a lot of different products together in their packages. So we've got the website. Like I said, we're still doing a print guide that will come out next Tuesday. But we're really looking at that print guide mostly as a vehicle to drive people towards the website. So a lot of the ads in the packages we made smaller this year than before, just trying to like cut down on page count and keep the cost as low on that print guide, but help us get towards the website. And then a whole different slew of paid social media posts are part of their packages as well, depending on how large the package is, how many tweets they get and stuff.
One of the things that we talked about ever since we launched an apartment website, and I think 2014, was we really wanted to become the place that people look if they want housing in Bowling Green tied to student housing. And we have talked a good game on that, but never really done anything. And one of the hopefully side benefits from having the challenge that 2020-21 has posed for us is we've gotten serious about this website, and it's really good. Sam and the students have done terrific work on it, and my hope is that it is going to be so useful for people that it plants itself as the place to go to look for an apartment in Bowling Green.
Kind of like Jonathan, we're doing a lot of paid promotion to try and make it the place to go to look for apartments around campus. So we've got especially Instagram ads is kind of where we're looking at mostly promoting on social next week during Housing Week. And then we've got planned a budget for the next several months for Google AdWords to kind of capitalize on that search traffic. And then all of our normal promotion channels, putting it out in kiosks on campus and all that kind of stuff too. Oh, and then the other big promotion thing, I guess I forgot, as part of Housing Week, is that we're going to do, we all have come to love newsletters so much over the last year, and we have nothing else. So we're going to do a special housing newsletter. We'll actually send twice next week. So we'll feature a couple of the stories from the housing guide there on the website, link to those. And then that package A, part of their package is being highlighted on that newsletter when that goes out to all of our 20,000 and some subscribers, so that they get that exposure and drives more traffic to the website.
The newsletter was also a great thing that the students commanded and did, back last March when we had to stop printing. They made the decision to go with a daily newsletter that goes out about 3 o'clock every weekday, and they've kept it up. And it really has become the most important thing that the College Heights Herald side does. It's more important than the print edition. And that's where our future is, I think.
Yeah. Can I ask a quick question to both Sam and John? How much do you guys did you spend on marketing, or will you be spending on marketing for Housing Week and the website and all that sort of stuff? Like, what's the initial investment? Because I think
actually my biggest investment was actually more or less paying the designer overtime to work on it. In terms of advertising costs, I want to say that we're Oh boy, I want to say it's somewhere between 150 to 200 a month is what we're doing right now on paid social advertising. I was actually going to throw this note in with Sam. It was interesting. He was talking about doing this on Google Words. We tried we tried also doing a Google Ads campaign oriented towards those same markets, and Google kept rejecting it, saying we were not an equal opportunity housing website when all was said and done. And whether you notice or not, Google actually has an appeals court, which cracks me up. We submitted it to the appeals court, and the appeals court said, "No, you're not an equal housing, website." We have no idea what that meant, so we could not do that with Google Ads. So we wanted to do that also on there. So we actually ended up having to invest even more money into social media advertising when all was said and done. So just not to say these companies have gotten too big, but they built their own judicial branches. So
Right. So you spend 150 to 200 per month for like,
yes.
and is that for the entire year? You guys are always going to do that going forward?
We basically have budgeted it out for the first 3 months. Beyond that, we haven't really thought, because we're also getting ready to launch some other initiatives as well that are going to kind of eat into what our promo budget is also. So I don't know that we're going to do that same number. I think right now we're investing heaviest currently because the market interest is heaviest right now. So we'll probably take it, I would say probably cut it down in half come late April or early May.
And what
Yeah,
about
and
you?
like I said, we're still kind of right in the middle of it now, with Housing Week being next week. But our plan is to spend about $200 for the next couple of weeks on mostly on Instagram ads, a little bit on Facebook, and then we have not submitted to Google AdWords yet, so we'll see if we end up in their judicial branch as well. So that might shift things around, but our plan is to spend about $2,000 on that between now and the start of the fall semester. Kind of heaviest now when it's the peak time to look for housing, and then kind of taper it off a little bit, but still advertise some more over the summer.
Okay, but both of you have obviously also made enough money on these sites to
Oh, yeah.
cover that cost for sure, right?
Yeah, and again, as I said earlier, not to make this, on our end earlier, we did ours at such a low price. We kind of viewed it as a loss leader in that, if we offer this at $300 for the first few months, it spurred conversation. It got people involved. And then they were like, okay, well, I'll invest also in your website. I'll invest in your social media. I'll invest in your video services also. So that kind of just spurred a lot of conversation and got things going in a really good way. So it was a good catalyst towards generating other digital revenues. And the other thing was, we just said, these housing companies are not going through as challenging a time as, say, restaurants are in the local area, but we still want to be a good partner to them and not say, well, how much money can we make off them at the end of the day? So, yeah.
Yeah, for us, we've got our 4 different packages that apartments pick from. Our lowest is 400 and our highest is 2,500. So kind of got a big range for different complexes. And so we've only got 10 clients so far for the website. But kind of our big push right now was the packages aimed at Housing Week and stuff. And kind of our hope is, as the spring goes on, we might get some more people to advertise just on the website, which is a lower rate.
One of the things that we've been unsure of is the holy grail really for the housing people was to get on campus and to be able to sell their what they have to offer in front of students on campus, because we have a pretty closed campus. But so when we started this out, we purposely went to Housing and Residence Life and made them a partner in this. And during a normal year, they get a package A just to be our partner and can set up and everything. But that's, I think next year, if we're back to something more normal, we will keep doing this kind of thing in addition to that in-person event, which we may try, some tweaks to how we do that in-person event, but it's been so popular. I think it could be, we keep what we've learned on the virtual thing that we've done and bring back that in-person event.
And we'll see if it works like we think it's going to work. Like I said, we're just launched today. So hopefully we had enough clients trust us to think that it'll work, but we'll see if we deliver, hopefully.
Sam, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're trying also with them? We got permission to do we have an annual section that a lot of y'all probably have, best of, we call it the best of the hill. And we've talked for the past couple of years about doing an event, and last year we were going to do it and COVID came. So we're going to do an event this year, and we've gotten approval to do an actual outdoor event that's spaced throughout Centennial Mall, which goes through the middle of campus. I think I've got that right. Is that correct, Sam? And actually, we are giving the apartment complexes the opportunity to buy a table at Best of the Hill if they bought into the Housing Week package. Is that right?
Yeah, if they buy a housing package, they get a little bit of a discount on a Best of the Hill event. But yeah, so we, like Chuck said, we have had students on campus since the fall. So we, I know not everyone is in that same boat, but we do have the opportunity to do something on campus. For us, being in Kentucky, it's a little colder right now when we would normally be doing the housing fair. So we felt like we couldn't do a housing fair in person since that would have to be inside at this time of the year. But we're trying Best of the Hill a little bit later towards the end of March. When hopefully it will be nice enough to do that outside where there's more room to space out with the COVID restrictions. Our campus, for any sort of event that is going to be held, there's this events committee that has to see your plan for COVID safety protocols and give review and feedback, and you make changes on the plan to get approved. So it was a couple weeks of going back and forth with that committee to get approved, but our plan is to have like 2 tables double deep so that those tables are 6 feet across, so people are spaced out far enough outside. And then even still outside, they're going to be required to wear masks. And we've got spaced out that all the tables will be at least 20 feet apart. So we're covering a pretty big area by spreading the tables out pretty far.
And what will you guys charge for that? Like, how does that work?
So we're bundling it with our rates that we normally have for our Best of the Hill section. And you can't be at the event without having an ad in the Best of the Hill special section. So we upped all of our rates somewhere between like maybe $40 to $50, depending on the size, and to kind of cover for including the event. So it's not necessarily that the event itself is a big money maker, but we're hoping that kind of drives more interest in Best of the Hill overall. And
do you guys get to do that, or does your university charge you money for that space? Like, I know at Penn, if we want to have an event, we have to like pay Penn to rent the space. Do you guys get that? Do you have to do that as well, or is that?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on what type of space it is. Outside, we can use that space for free, and the university will provide tables and chairs and stuff, as long as it's during the business day. If it's outside of normal operating hours, we have to pay a labor fee for delivering that, or if we wanted to rent like a sound system or something, there's fees for that. If we do it inside, so like how we normally do our housing fair inside our student union, we have to pay to rent that space.
But it's really, really cheap.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, their model is mostly around renting rooms, but with our info fair, like we don't want rooms. We want to be out in the middle of everywhere. So they're like all confused by that and just charge us $2 a table. I'm like, okay, great.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I guess, the message is, this doesn't have to shut us down. It does require us to think differently and, and push our students and also the professional staff to throw away the way we've always done it. But there are good options out there. And, I've just been really enormously happy and with the creativity the students have shown in this and a bunch of things.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, I would reinforce that. I think what is great here is you're getting 2 different perspectives. Again, we're still in a very, very Zoom heavy environment here, and Western Kentucky is not in a very Zoom heavy environment. And believe me, I would much rather be able to have face-to-face interaction that they're having. But again, yeah, I think what this year has kind of taught me is, and the other thing I'm saying with a lot of these things is I've come into this like, okay, how are we going to solve this? And I've had my own ideas. And one of the things that I'm really fond of doing is just, kind of throwing this to the student leaders and see what they can do on this. And not to be lazy, but to just say, okay, they know their market better than I do. They know what their market's going to respond to better than I do. And something I will do in our weekly business manager meetings is I'll say, okay, here are 3 questions I want you guys to consider between now and when we meet again next week. And we'll just kind of break on that. It's kind of like, homework in a way, and just say, okay, how are we going to grab the attention of our audience? What's going to make this unique? And everything is kind of different. And then the 4 of them come back and they all have completely different answers. And, you're not, from that, you're not going to have like, okay, this is a universal way to do it. You just kind of puzzle a plan together. You're like, I love what this person had. Let's use that. I love what this person had. Let's use that. I had my own idea. Let's throw that together. And then you do it. And again, it's been as successful as you could hope it could be, but on top of that, it gives them great ownership on putting this thing together. And that really helps the morale of the office when all is said and done as well. So that's something I would just kind of reinforce in doing this is, again, my way I might have looked at solving this 3 years ago is completely different. And I really now more than ever, I'm just like, what do we got to do here, guys? Let's put our heads together and solve it.
Yeah, that's very true. What questions do we have out there? So we still have, can talk a little bit about the grad gallery, Chuck and Sam. I know Sam has to go a little bit early because he has another
class.
call at 5. Oh, he's class at 5. So you guys want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I'll start it out and then pitch to Sam real quick if he is still here. One of the things that we do to make money is each year each semester we have done a section where we listed the names of people who were graduating. Thanks, Sam, for bringing that up. And obviously in the spring we couldn't do that, and that section will generate $5,000 or $6,000 in revenue. So the students on Cherry Creative came up with a virtual section, a graduate gallery where parents or whoever could pay a pretty small fee and put photos of their loved ones on there. And I think they could put up to 10. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, there were a couple different options for, I think $15 you could do 1 photo, $20 for 2 photos, and $30 for up to 10 photos. Most of them went with the 10 photo option.
And this ended up making about $3,900, which we would have made 0 because we couldn't do the print thing. So, we had some people. You see one there that's on there now. A few departments bought ads, and so it was just a really good solution to being starved for revenue. But this is the kind of content that parents could put on it.
That's super cool. Yeah, we did an actual print edition of our graduation issue last year. And we do these grad goodbyes. We call them grad goodbyes. We open it up to student groups, parents. Last year we weren't even sure we were going to do a graduation issue. We decided 2 weeks before graduation to print something, and we sold $8,100 worth of ads in like 10 days. So yeah, these grad issues can be very, very successful.
Yeah, this one, and we've decided to keep these up. So like the spring 2020 will be up. We have a fall. Did we do one in the fall, Sam? Yep. A small one. We didn't actually have a graduation in the fall because of COVID, and it's going to happen this coming spring. But we've decided to keep these up so people could go back and look at them, and you can look it up by the college that you're in, all sorts of different ways.
What platform do you use for that? And also, you may have said this and I just missed it. How did your revenue compare to your print version of it?
If we had done print, we had budgeted to bring in about $6,000. This brought in about $3,900. So it brought in less, but we also thought of it much later. How much lead time did we do on that, Sam? Maybe a month?
Yeah, I mean, there was probably a little less than a month between when we came up with it and when we started selling it. We had been, looking at some of y'all who, with your graduation guides, sell parent ads, and we were planning to start that for the first time last year. About the time COVID hit, we were about ready to launch our website to take ads, and then we're like, oh shoot, we aren't printing anything anymore. So in about a week, we kind of figured out, okay, we're doing this website instead, and then it took a couple weeks to figure out how to make it before starting to sell it. And we make it on WordPress, just like our apartment's website. So there's not a lot of overhead. So while the revenue was less than print, our expenses were way less than print.
Yeah, Nathan was asking about 3,900 in revenue. Yeah, it was in revenue. What did it cost us to pull it off? A few hundred, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think we paid $60 or $70 for a WordPress theme, and then I think that was about it.
And then we pay our students, so they're already getting paid. So they did this work as part of their. So yeah, low cost.
And how do you market it to the community or to your prospects, whether it's parents or students themselves? Do you partner with student programs or anything?
No, we've got kind of two routes that we market it. One is kind of how we market everything else that we talked about with housing fair and stuff, sharing on our social media and house ads and that sort of stuff. But then we also sent emails to graduating seniors and to their parents. So we were able to get that list through our registrar's office of all the graduating seniors, and then we were able to get parent email addresses for probably about a third of them. And so that was what most of it came through.
I am so jealous you have access to all of that. I do not have any of that anymore. So, we used to get mailing addresses from the university for parents, and we would send out something for the grad goodbyes to parents, to all the graduating seniors. Penn won't share that anymore. So due to some privacy policy things that they claim, but so now we just, market it on social, and we put it in our headline email every day. Yeah, Kelly can't get anything either, so it's frustrating.
Yeah, our university still so far classifies all that email addresses and other contact information under directory information under FERPA. So we're lucky with that.
Yeah, for sure.
At the moment.
What other questions?
We don't raise that question too much, though.
No, I would never. I wouldn't say a word.
So let's keep that between us.
Yeah, exactly. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay. Well, we're about 10 minutes before the end of the call, but if everybody feels like they know what they need to do, I'm wondering, John, Chuck, and Sam, would you mind dropping your email addresses in the chat really quick so people can reach out to you if they think of things after the call? That would be super helpful.
Yeah. Lucas had his hand up a while ago. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah, thanks for calling me out there. My question was to Jonathan. I really like that idea that you talked about, where you, in your student manager meetings, you ask, what are 3 questions, think about them. What do they like specifically? What kind of questions get thrown around, and on the topic of COVID or on the topic of innovation, and what kind of things have you gotten from sort of?
No, that's a great question. You mean what kind of questions am I posing to them, or what kind of ideas are they kind of coming back with, or both?
Both.
Yeah. So I'm a big audience participation kind of guy. If you're considering your students your audience here, it really started when we first went on lockdown back in April. We were meeting about once a week. Once I had hired the 2 top managers for the next academic year, we just set up a weekly meeting, and we just started looking product by product, event by event, and just said, okay, how are we going to get this done next year? And I kind of started off with 3 questions, and 3 was always my guide. And it would just be like, okay, and an example that I would start with is one of our most popular products is Go Slow. Everything is slow at the end here in San Luis Obispo. But one of our most popular products is Go Slow, which was, like 70% of the revenue was from university accounts. And I said, okay, Our state is about to go through $54 billion in budget cuts. And that means the CSU system is going to see big cuts. And that means our campus clients are going to see them drop. We can't just get rid of this product. So how are we going to make up that revenue? And I would just kind of pose that big question to them. And then they would come back the next week. And then they would just, like the idea from one of them kind of started like, well, let's reinvent the product and make it less of a focus on campus and make it more of a tourist guide to San Luis Obispo County. So now we can go after the wineries and businesses like that have not seen their budgets slash and kind of take it from there. And so it kind of starts like that. And then the conversation just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. And then you just kind of start there. So those are just kind of the questions I started with on that. And really, again, what I've always kind of found in the best way I could put this in doing student, in working with students again over the years, and I touched on this a minute ago, is when your managers especially feel ownership of an idea, when they're like, I built that, I helped build that from the ground up, I helped build this business plan from the ground up, this thing is mine, they will 1,000% go that extra mile when all is said and done. So that was just kind of the thought process that carried over into how are we going to make these events happen. And that's, to wrap it up on my end, that's how also the idea for our distribution plan came. Okay, well, the audience is not going to be on campus. So how are we going to get the product to them? And, one of our students came back and said, let's just take the product to them. Let's partner with the apartment complex. Let's just throw it in the driveways. Let's go old school. So that's really how all these things kind of came together. So it's kind of a long answer to a good question for me. Does that answer your question, Lucas?
It's a good answer to a short question.
Okay, great. Thank you, man.
If I can throw something out there, we kind of fell off a cliff in the fall of 2017 with revenue and such. We had a 35% collapse in revenue, and largely driven by budget cuts at the university. And over the past 9 years, they've gone from more than 50% of our revenue being university clients to now it's about 10%. But what we did is we got our student leaders, a select group of our student leaders and a select group of freshmen and sophomores together to brainstorm, how do we reshape our business? And out of that came taking the Herald from twice weekly in print to once weekly in print, starting newsletters. And the really big idea that came out of that has just worked brilliantly is creating Cherry Creative. That was born out of the students spending about 6 weeks brainstorming how we rebuild this business to be more flexible and have a better opportunity of surviving. So we give our students all of our information. They know all of our revenue, they know all of our expenses, printing contracts, everything, and they have a real voice in how we operate.
Yeah, that's great. And we sort of follow that same model, but we struggle a lot with our students just making sort of a full-time commitment, if you will. Like, they know how much money we have, they know how much money we're losing. And we decided, and we used to have a sales team, a traditional sales team, which we got rid of a couple of semesters ago. So we just couldn't get pen kids to sell, to knock on doors. And so we pivoted and we called them the consulting team. And a lot of what they do is basic, prospect research for me, to be honest. I do all the sales for the company at this point. But they, research clients, do all kinds of stuff with the presentations, but I actually do the selling. The other thing we allowed them to do was, we've had some ideas of things that we thought could work, but have never gotten off the ground. Developing an essay editing service, creating an Ivy League ad collaborative, and then doing a competitive philanthropy event. And, to speak to John's point of just allowing them to have full ownership, I've got this group of students who has done more in the past, semester and a half than we've had students do in ages on the business side. So we're about to launch 2 new companies, if you will, and revenue generators. And we're doing this philanthropy competition with our alumni in the spring. So it's been interesting. And you're right, though. It's like, okay, guys, this is the idea. What can you come up with? And they've really done really well. So fingers crossed that we have some new revenue generators for the spring. So
don't overlook your alumni and building a really good relationship with them. They paid to build the building we're in.
I know I'm jealous of that.
We just started a campaign that's been sort of stalled by COVID, but to create an endowment, and we're about 40% to where we want to be by 2025, which is our 100th anniversary. And then we also created a membership program to encourage annual giving, and do things like give them a polo if they donate $50 a month. A polo with the insignia of the division of their choice.
That's cool. We do that stuff too. It's been really helpful.
Yeah, that really is helpful. That's how we're going to be able to replace computers this year.
Oh, nice. We bought like 15 new computers, and then there was COVID, and we never even like put them out into the newsroom. So I've got 15 apples in my sales office if anyone needs. All right. Any other questions before we sign off? I'd like to thank John and Chuck for being with us today. This was super, super helpful. Guys, before we close this out, make sure you copy down their email addresses and reach out with any questions. And with that, I'm going to stop recording and end the call. So thank you all for joining us today. Hope you have a good weekend.